Guys, what is going on? Just got done with a hike. All right, did my EDC hike video. Got over 6 miles, very humid. Anyhow, I had some interest, and one was from my nephew that's in the Air Force, Jordan. Wanted to hear the story time about how I got addicted to cigarettes. Now, don't take that to mean that I smoke now. I'm not a smoker. I haven't smoked cigarettes. It was like 14 years ago I was addicted to cigarettes. And I'll tell you how I quit and different things like that. And I'm kind of going to tell you how I got started. And, you know, not anything really way out of the ordinary, but probably than most other people. But when I was about 16 years old, I was hanging out with guys that were older than me. Okay. Now, I looked young when I always looked young for my age. But when I was 16, I was like probably close to 6 foot tall. And I was probably 180 pounds, 190 pounds probably. And maybe even a little more than that, maybe even a couple hundred. And like a size 11 shoe, 12 shoe. So basically I was hanging out with some older guys, and one guy I was hanging out with was in the military, and it should have never been done. He was a young guy. He was like newly in the military, but when he would come back on leave and stuff, I'd hang out with him and his friends. And I should have never been doing that at 16 years old. My dad gave me freedom and stuff. And, here's the thing. When you're 16, some people, you're not an adult at 16. You still live in your parents' house. You go by their rules and whatever. But when I was 16, I had no business hanging out with a guy that was in the military that, basically partied and did whatever people do, at the age he was, and he was a pretty hard partier too. So I would go places with them and different things, and the one guy, he always smoked Camels. I always loved the Camels pack, okay? Something about the Camel logo, and I was always like kind of intrigued by the little secret about the picture on the Camel's leg. And, all that different things that's on the pack, and always something about Camels. So every time I'd be with these guys, and like I said, they were all like 21, they could drink and stuff. I was like 16, but they would say, here, you want one? Or somebody would give me one. And I just started playing with them, I started playing with the cigarettes, just kind of puffing on it a little bit, holding it in my hand, and riding in the car with them and different things, or being out where we were, whatever, and just kind of trying to fit in and be like them, whatever. I guess you know how it is when you're that age and you're hanging out with these people. Now, to me, it was like I was with full-grown adults, even though at 21, they were nowhere near, 21, 22, whatever, they were nowhere near being full-grown adults whatsoever. But when you're sorry, my phone got cut off there. But when you're 16, it feels like 21, 22, 23-year-olds are full-grown adults. So I'd be with these guys. They'd be like, hey, you want one? Or somebody'd be like, hey, you want one? They'd hand me one. And it started out with just me playing with them, puffing on them, inhaling maybe a little bit. And after enough time, I started, I'd take a draw of the cigarette, and it would give me a buzz. I'd get a nicotine buzz. And then I'd kind of just hold the cigarette or whatever and maybe not puff on it too much, and I would have that buzz going. So pretty soon, after a while, it didn't take long. What I didn't realize, guys, was I'd never realized that I was sucking on the devil's finger when I was putting those cigarettes in my mouth, because I never knew what I was going to come up. I never knew what I was coming up against with, as far as that goes. Another guy looking at his phone down on his lap when he was driving, eased over toward me. But I had no idea when I was playing with these cigarettes what I was putting my foot into. Let this be a warning to some of you. I was sucking on the devil's finger big time, and I never knew how he was going to hook me in once I got addicted to these things. So let me backtrack a little bit. When I was real young, a lot of guys tried cigarettes when they were like 10, 11, 12, 13. I never tried a cigarette, and I'll tell you why. My dad is a smart guy, and my dad has a lot of wisdom, and this is what my dad told me. Now, my dad's a Christian man, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in Christianity and everything that would say, oh, this was wrong, he shouldn't have done that or whatever. But let me tell you something. My dad was wise. He knew what he was doing. and this is what my dad always told me from when I was a little kid. He said, if you're ever with kids and they got a cigarette, or they ask you if you want to smoke, he said, just come home. He said, just tell me. He said, I'll go right down to the store, I'll get a pack of cigarettes, and we'll go right out back. He said, we'll light one up. He said, and I'll have you smoke one. What I didn't know at the time was and because my dad said that, when I was like 13, 12, 14, it never interested me. You know, kids wanted to think they were cool when they were that age and have a cigarette. And I told him, I said, hey, my dad lets me smoke if I want. All I got to do is go home and say, Dad, I want to try a cigarette. And he'll go buy me some. But I think I kind of exaggerated, and I think I just kind of said my dad lets me smoke, even though I didn't smoke, even though he never gave me a cigarette. But he told me he would. So basically, my dad let me smoke if I wanted to. So what I didn't know at the time is I would have been really, really ill. My brother took my dad up on the challenge. I think when my brother was younger, I think my dad was still smoking cigarettes. Now, my dad quit smoking cigarettes decades ago, years and years ago, over 30 years ago. But when my brother was younger, I think my brother wanted to try one. I think that's what the story was. And when my dad lit up one for him, my dad told him he had to smoke it, and he about turned green. You know, and when he started to get sick, my dad said, okay, that's enough. My brother never touched a cigarette again in his life that I know of. And well, I know he didn't. My brother never touched a cigarette again in his life. And that's kind of the route my dad, now I was younger than my brother, there's a big age gap there. But my dad said the same thing to me. He said, hey, you want to smoke a cigarette? Don't take one from those kids. He said, don't smoke with them. He said, come home here with me. He said, I'll get you a pack at the store. He said, and I'll get you the lighter and everything. He said, you smoke it right up. He said, no problem. That kept me from smoking when I was a real young kid. Now, when I got with these guys that were older than me, it was a different thing. It wasn't like, it wasn't cool for me to tell them my dad will let me smoke. It was, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to hang with these guys. I wanted to be parted like these guys. I thought they were full-grown adults. I thought they were full-grown men. And the one being in the military and everything, looked up to him. And it was different. So when I was with these guys, I was playing around with the cigarettes. So what happened was, after enough time of playing around with these cigarettes, I got to the point to where the nicotine buzz would wear down, and I would keep puffing on the cigarette, and pretty soon, when I was going to meet up with these guys to go do something, the first thing I'd want when I got in the car was a cigarette. Now, it would be cool. I could go like days without a cigarette till the weekend. I could go, several hours. I didn't have to have a pack with me. I didn't have to have one during the day. And when I'd get with these guys or whatever, I'd say, hey, can I get one of those or whatever, before they'd even ask me. And then, they'd give me one. And I would smoke it. So after that, it got to the point to where I would want one. I would be craving one during the day when I wasn't hanging out with anybody. I'd be like, man, I need a smoke. And it didn't take real long. It doesn't take real long either to get hooked on these things. And like I said, I had no idea what I was putting my foot into. I never did I imagine what I was putting my foot into with cigarettes. And so I'd go. I had another friend that didn't live far away. I would walk a far distance to another friend's house. And I'd say, hey, can I get one of those? Oh, yeah, sure, here. Okay, that's all good and well. And then it got to the point where I'd have to have somebody older buy me a pack, and I would take the pack home and hide it. And I would take a walk during the day or something. I'd have to smoke one. Now, I was cool with smoking one a day, whatever. But that's not going to hold you over for very long. Pretty soon you're going to need more than that one a day. Well, so I'd have to have a pack with me. It might be late at night. It might be watching TV or something, and, sneak out the back of the house, go in the back, light up a cigarette, take that nice long draw on a Marlboro Red, feel that feeling you get when you smoke. If I tried to smoke right now, I'd throw up all over this car. We'll get into that. That's what happens after you quit, which is a good thing. But I remember, I'll never forget though, lighting that thing up, taking that first nice big drag when you ain't had a cigarette in a while. You smokers, you know what that is. You take that nice deep inhale and you just, blow that smoke back out, and you feel that nicotine rush right away. That nicotine is just, it's more than food. Like if you're hungry, or you can go, if it's a break or whatever, and you can either eat or go smoke, you'll smoke every time. You just take in that nice big draw on that Marlboro and you blow it out, and you get that little after smell, the note from the cigarette burning off the end. You get that little note out in the air. Marlboro distinct. It always made me think of like I was at the fair or an amusement park. Something about that smell. Every time I'd smell it, it always had a nice tone to it. It was pleasing, to my nostrils. I would always think of like a fair or something. I don't know what it was about it. So it got to the point, where I had to have cigarettes more and more. And I started to realize, wow, this is a drug. Nicotine is a drug, And I had to have cigarettes with me and around me. And I was always going out now. I was always finding places to smoke. And I was doing this and doing that. And then pretty soon as I got older, it just built and built. And I started... Basically, I never went over a pack and a half a day. I would say for the majority of being a smoker, it was about a pack a day. I don't see how people smoke 3 packs, but there's people out there that do it. But I was about a pack a day smoker. I went from Marlboro Reds to Marlboro Lights, for whatever reason. But for the longest time, I was Marlboro Red smoker, and then I went into Marlboro Lights. Now, it's been 14 years since I quit. I quit cold turkey. In my opinion, that's the only way to do it. But you got to have some willpower. You have to have willpower. I'm going to tell you what, it is not easy. If you get yourself truly hooked on cigarettes, it will be one of the hardest things you've ever done in your lifetime. For me, when I quit smoking, at a young age, when I quit smoking, it was up to that point in my life, it was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. It was the hardest thing to stop. The first time I feel I had ever been addicted to anything in my life, and it was the roughest thing I had ever had happen to me in my life at that point. Because when you quit and you go eat this nice big meal and you're eating more because you haven't smoked, well, when you eat, the first thing you want to do after you eat is have another cigarette. Why is that? When you eat and you drink your water, your pop, and you eat and you drink your pop, it clears all the nicotine out of your mouth and all of your, everywhere that you have the nicotine resin and everything from smoking, and that's all cleared out. And the first thing you want is you want that flavor again. You want that boost after you eat. You want to take that nice long draw and feel that nicotine rush hit you. It's the first thing you want after you eat. In the morning, whatever, on your way to work, it's the first thing you're going to want. You get out of bed, the first thing you want is that cigarette. Some people get up in the middle of the night and go smoke them. I'm telling you, if you don't smoke and you're playing with them, don't do it. Don't mess with it. I'm telling you, because you're getting your foot into something that you will have a hard time ever getting back out of. Now, for those of you that's never smoked, I congratulate you on that, and give you all the congrats on that. But if you ever wonder why you see people that will suffer and they'll go out in an ice storm, in a snowstorm, when it's 10 degrees out, 5 degrees out, just to smoke that little cigarette, and they'll suffer for that 10 minutes that they smoke. You know why now. You know why, what I'm telling you, why they do this. Because if you're not a smoker, you have no idea. You have no idea. If you've never been addicted to cigarettes, you have no idea the pool it has. Way more than food. You go without food and you feel that pull for hunger and go sit in a restaurant, look at the food and don't eat. Nicotine, that cigarette's way more pull than that. So you have no clue really of what this is until you've been there, and you don't ever want to go there. I'm telling you, you don't ever want to go there. But that's pretty much the size of it. Quit 14 years ago, and the smell makes me sick now. If somebody was in this car smoking, it would make me sick. What doesn't make me sick is the note that burns off the end. Like if I'm out somewhere, it still gives me that county fair nostalgia in my mind, just the note. But somebody taking in a draw and blowing it out will literally make me about turn green. And like I said, if I tried to, that's one thing is once you quit for a certain amount of time, you try to take a draw off a cigarette, you'll turn green and you'll be throwing up all over the place without a doubt. So that's it, guys. just wanted to give you a little story time. Don't want to drag this on too long, so hope you enjoyed that, Jordan. And I got some other story time stuff from in the past too that I can tell you guys. But all right, guys, until next time, this is DOF, and I am out.